This is an Armored Amps Little Rascal. It is a hand-wired 18-watt beauty that you should want. I know I do. I'm here at Blues Angel Music in Pensacola. Now, if you've been on Reverb, you may notice that they are one of the top sellers. They are an amazing store that has a phenomenal inventory. They carry Fenders, Gibsons, PRS, Eastmans, basically any kind of guitar you would want. And they carry a lot of cool amplifiers, not just the big names like Fender and Marshall and those kinds of things and Black Star, but they carry cool little boutique amplifiers made by people who live locally. In fact, this amplifier was built in Fort Walton Beach. Armored Amplifiers is a small little boutique amplifier maker, and by that I mean it's James. James is the one who makes the amplifiers. He also does mods. He'll do various mods on your Marshalls and your Fenders and those kinds of things, but he also makes his own amplifiers, and they are incredible. And this one is for sale. It's $1,200, but this is a phenomenal little value in a hand-wired amplifier. If you want to get something like this out of, say, a Marshall Custom Shop or maybe Mad Amp, you're going to be spending a lot more money than you are on this. So of course we're going to go over the quirks and features of the Little Rascal by Armored Amps, and of course I will also mic it up and give it a pulse score. And in the meantime, if you want to hear more of my thoughts on this amplifier, just keep watching this video. I'm going to start with the overall appearance of the amplifier. This thing is really cool. So the front, yes, you have this nice basket weave, which is very evocative of old Fender Tweed amps, but that's where the similarities to a mass manufactured amplifier kind of end. So the wood on the front here is this lovely flamed maple that is stained red. It is absolutely gorgeous. But the thing that everybody's going to notice about this amplifier when they get up close to it is the leather that it is wrapped in, and it is done in this lovely kind of flower paisley cowboy kind of look. It's really striking to see up close and really adds to the handmade boutique kind of air that this amplifier is going to give. One of my favorite details on this amplifier is here on the front, this aluminum panel. All this lettering is actually etched into the metal, so this will never fade. You'll never have to worry about having turned the knob a lot and then rubbing off the word gain. And one other thing I noticed is that these knobs, well, they're the exact same kind of knobs that are on Marshall amplifiers, but these are the kind of things that are very expensive to produce. In order to make an amplifier that's $1,500 instead of $2,500, a lot of those little things are going to be from mass manufactured parts. Yes, you can always get somebody to make you little wooden knobs that are hand turned on a lathe, but if you're somebody who's more concerned about tone and making sure that the overall appearance of the amplifier is really, really nice, that little tiny thing isn't really going to matter that much. As always with amplifiers like this, I love pointing out the handles because I just love really sturdy feeling leather handles. It's nice whether it's on a mass manufactured amplifier or on a little boutique amplifier like this. Next we come to the back of the amplifier, and one thing I was a little surprised by is that it has a built-in power cord. Most amplifiers these days, boutique or otherwise, have an external cord that you can plug in. So this is really old school right here. Next, of course, you see that you have the fuses and the plug for the speakers. You have the primary, which is the internal speaker, and you have an external speaker cab out as well. This is an interesting switch right here. This is the balls switch. So when you flip it, it gives the amp more balls. Then interestingly, for a small boutique amplifier like this, normally when you get like an 18-watt hand-wired amp, you're not going to get an effects loop, but this is marketed as a pedal platform. This amplifier has very few gain stages. It's actually based on his Little Devil amplifier, but he's reduced some gain stages, so this thing will stay very clean to higher volumes and take pedals really, really well. We may plug in some pedals later on in the video. Now, as for the construction of the cabinet, this is dovetailed birch ply, although there are some solid pieces in here that look like they may be poplar. This is a really, really well-constructed little amplifier. It is also heavy. So the video that I did showing off the Boss Katanas, those weigh about 20 pounds or so, 25. this weighs more. Not only is this a tube amplifier with transformers and things that just make it heavier, it also has a much more robust cabinet, and you can really feel that it's not going to move around or rattle. That's a really important thing in amplifiers. When you build a really nice plywood and solid cabinet and you can keep that thing rattle free, it is a thing of beauty. Just not for your back when you're trying to move it around. And another little detail I love is the quality of the speaker cable that he used. I love whenever you have cables that are themselves beautiful, and I love this little candy cane wrap with the black and gold. Really, really tastefully done. And of course this jack just feels like it could be run over by a tank and survive just fine. The speaker that's in the back here is a Warehouse Guitar Speakers Retro 30. The Retro 30 is still very close to a vintage 30s sound or veteran 30s sound, but it's supposed to be brighter, a little bit more articulate, and have a deeper and tighter bottom end than the veteran 30. As for tubes, it runs off of two EL84s for the power section, two ECC83s or 12AX7s for the preamp, one SY3 rectifier tube. Interestingly, the website says it has a GE5789 in here, but having looked inside this amplifier, I only see the other tubes that I have mentioned. I'm not sure if this has been modded in any way or if this is a different circuit that was custom ordered. With little boutique amplifiers, a lot of times the owner will specify something different. It is a little boutique amplifier and the guy can make it however you want. On the bottom of the amplifier, there's not really anything too super special going on here, but these rubber feet that are on here are absolutely massive. They are really grippy as well. These things have an incredible studded pattern that will stay gripping onto whatever you set this thing on. So those are the quirks and features of the Armored Amps Little Rascal. Now it's time to plug it in and see how it sounds. Okay, so playing the Armored Amps Little Rascal, I've grabbed an American Pro Strat because I think that this thing is going to be a really great clean machine. I'll plug in something with humbuckers in a little bit, and we'll plug in some pedals as well and see how well it takes them. But this is just the clean setting that I have right now. I have the gain just past noon. The high is about between 2 and 3 o'clock. The middle is just below noon. The bass is about 11 o'clock. Presence is slightly lower than the bass, about 11 o'clock. The master is about 1 o'clock. And I do have hearing protection in, but I probably don't need it at this volume. It's pretty quiet. A little bit of hum, of course, because I have single coils, but this is your basic clean sound in the bridge position. Pretty darn nice. Let's go to the middle end bridge. Nice and rich. Middle position. Very nice. All right, middle and neck. Love the strat in between sounds. Neck position. Love that neck position. All right, I'm going to flip the balls switch on the back and see what it does. Right now it's in the down position, which I assume is off. Up position. Oh yeah, okay, so balls is more volume. Bridge position. Boy, I like that. Yeah. I guess if you're doing some home playing, this Be nice to not bother the neighbors as much in the down position, but it definitely sounds better to me up and on. Yeah, much better with it on. All right, let's start playing around with the knobs. This is, again, based on a higher gain amplifier with some of the gain stages removed, but I think that there's still a lot of gain to be had in here. So let's turn up the preamp gain, keeping these same settings, getting a lot more hum, as you would imagine. Gain has been turned up to 3 o'clock. So it sounds really, really nice with a little bit more gain. There's not a lot of breakup here, but I'm going to go ahead and bring the preamp gain all the way up to full. The master is still about 1 o'clock or so, and then we'll turn the master up and see really where we can push this in. And again, the balls switch is in the up position. I really never want to say balls again in the video if I can avoid it, but let's see what we got here. Starting to get that nice breakup. Master is at just shy of 4 o'clock. Cleans up beautifully. Sounds really nice cleaned up, but of course then you can go from 2. So nice. Let's dime it. That's so cool. All right, backing off on all of that. So we'll bring the gain back down. I'll leave the gain at unity, and master is going to be about 11 o'clock. Now, let's hear how much range is in these pots. High comes pretty spiky. And bring the high down. Middle, scoop the middle out. Pretty muffled. Dime. Yeah, pretty neat. Bass, all the way off, disappear, really boomy, presence, pretty lifeless without it. That's nice. So gorgeous sounding little amplifier, and let's see how well it takes some pedals. So the first pedal I'm going to plug in is this nice little Jhs Bonsai right here. I have it set to the 808 mode. Tone is at unity right now. We'll flavor to taste in just a minute, but going with the classic settings of pushing the front end of a broken up amplifier with really high volume and not much gain at all. I pushed the preamp gain up to about a little past 3, and this is our clean tone. Now with the Jhs engaged. Turn the tone up a bit on the pedal. Got it about 2. That is really nice. It takes pedals extremely well. Let's go ahead and plug in a proper distortion pedal and see how well we can use this just as a clean platform. So now I've plugged in a proper dirt pedal. I have this Wampler Plexi Drive Deluxe plugged in, and you can probably see my settings from there, but I'll tell you what they are. The bass is rolled down a bit. It's pretty bassy. I've got the bass at about 10:30. I've got the mids at noon. I've got the treble about 1 o'clock. The drive is about 1:30. The volume is at about 10 o'clock as well. I'm not running boost. I've got the switch on the left down to bass and the switch on the right from bright to boost. Now I've set the EQ on the amplifier. The high, middle, bass, and presence are all at 6. I've tried to kind of just even this out. The gain is back at about 9 o'clock. The master is up to about 3 o'clock, trying to get rid of a lot of the preamp gain so that we're getting large to the pedal and seeing how this does as a clean platform. The bass up there. Drive up more. Sounds pretty darn nice. Let's go ahead and plug in a humbucker equipped guitar, let's say. Okay, so I've grabbed a guitar with humbuckers. This is a PRS flame top that is worth a significant portion of what my car is worth. And I have reset the settings here on the amplifier. The gain is up around 1 o'clock, high is just shy of 1 o'clock, middle is just over 1 o'clock, bass is about 11, presence is close to 2, and master is down around 11, maybe 10:30 or so. And this is my clean tone, well, clean-ish. Nice bridge humbucker tone. Let's go to the middle position with both engaged. Neck position. So now before I kick on the Wampler pedal again and get some pedal distortion, let's hear the internals amp distortion. I have the gain up about 4 o'clock, and this is on the bridge position. up even more. Let's just max the preamp gain. Now let's hear how this really responds to turning up the master volume. All right, master is up around 1 o'clock. Very, very nice and rich sounding. That is just fantastic. Let's bring that back down to about 11 o'clock, bringing the gain back to about 1 o'clock. And this is my clean tone again. I want that to be overdriven a little less, so we'll turn the master up a little bit more, gain back. Master is up around 2 o'clock, gains back around 10:30. This is with the Wampler engaged, and you can see I've pushed up my settings just a little bit. Bass is around 1, middle is just above noon, treble's around 1, and the dry is about 1:30. Well, I think that just sounds absolutely wonderful with all these pedals plugged in the front of it. But of course, this does have an effects loop, so I'm going to grab an MXR carbon copy and see how that sounds pushed through the effects loop. All right, so I have plugged in the MXR carbon copy. I'm leaving the Wampler in because obviously I just want to play some distortion with this delay. So I'm going to turn on the delay. I have the mix at noon, delay at noon, and regeneration is just about shy at about 11 o'clock, and mod is not on, so this is without, and this is with. Oh, big drop in volume. So definitely a lot higher volume with it not being engaged. Not sure what the deal is there. Okay, so what I didn't think about here was the fact that the effects loop is probably designed for line level inputs instead of instrument level inputs like this MXR carbon copy right here. So the effects loop works just fine, it's just me plugging in the wrong pedal for the effects loop. But there is something I am curious about with this little boutique amplifier, and that is, can it make a Boss Metal Zone sound good? Okay, so I have a Boss Metal Zone set up to go into the front end. I'm using a variation on a good hard rock setting that people have shown online, which has the level at Unity. The distortion, I've actually backed off from that setting because I just tried it off camera and I hated it. So the distortion is back around 10 o'clock, but the middle is set to about 4:30 or so. The mid freak is set to about 11 o'clock, and then both high and low are set at about 1 o'clock. And let's start off with the clean tone. This is what it sounds like clean. So here goes with the Metal Zone. Not awful, not fantastic either. Certainly not as rich and interesting as the Wampler. But I'm going to go ahead and plug this in how Ola England did it in his video, where he plugged it into the effects return, because that really did improve how this thing sounded. Alright, so now I've got it plugged into the effects return, and I just played with the settings a little bit, and I have to say it's actually a dramatic improvement. The level I have at about 230, high and low are still up about the same, about 230. I have the outside mid-freak about 11 o'clock and the interior middle control about 230 as well. And then the distortion I have really low, that's about 9 o'clock. And this is the sound that I get. That is actually a really usable tone. That's a good hard rock tone out of this thing when you just use it as a preamp going into the effects return of this really nice Little Rascal. But this thing is really, really impressive. I absolutely loved playing through it. It's 18 watts, plenty loud enough for your average gig, especially if you flip the balls switch up in the back, which, again, I really don't ever want to have to say balls switch ever again. But this is absolutely fantastic to play through. I think it sounds gorgeous, clean, overdriven, push with pedals, distorted, whatever. It is a phenomenal amplifier. So let's go ahead and give this thing a Paul score. We'll start with the living room score, which looks at how this amp would fare as a fun jamming amp at home. Beginning in the styling category, I have rarely been so blown away by an amp. I love the stained flame maple, I love the leather, I love the etched aluminum. The only things that could possibly hurt it are the sourced Marshall style knobs and the fact that you really do have to get up close to appreciate all the best details, but I'm giving it a very strong 9 out of 10. As for tone, this matches the best I've ever played in the living room category, and I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Fight me on this, I will argue with you. As for reliability, it's a hand-wired boutique tube amp, so expect long life, but you will need to replace tubes every now and again, and with amps that are used, you never know what some previous owner has done to the poor thing, but it sounds great and feels robust, like it could fall down a staircase and cause more damage to the staircase than itself. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. As for the fun factor, I usually ding amps that only have one channel, no onboard effects, and an effects loop that requires a buffer to play nice with your average guitar pedal. But this amp has so many controls for tone, the balls switch, and an effects loop that will love your line level pedals, and it just sounds so darn good. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. The cool factor looks at how much attention guitar nerds and guitar newbies alike will fawn over your amp, and I reserve 10s for breathtaking works of art or really significant historical models like Pix-only oranges, Dumbles, train wrecks, those kinds of things. But even though Armored Amps isn't a household name, and after playing this thing I believe it should be, I think the gorgeous exterior and the otherworldly tone elevate this to an 8 out of 10, bringing the total living room score to 44 out of 50, placing it at the top of my living room score chart, beating out heavyweights like the Mesa Boogie Mark V, the Mad Amp Mini Mat, and the always amazing Fender Bassbreaker 007. It really is that good. The stage score rates how good an amp would be as a regular gigging amplifier on the road. Starting in the features category, while I'm impressed at what the Little Rascal has in terms of practice amps with its effects loop and myriad tone controls, it's lacking a second or third channel, it has no power scaling, and it has no line out to go directly to the house sound. While it does well for an 18-watt single 12 practice amp, it can't compete with dedicated 50 or 100 watt amps with all the bells and whistles, so it gets a 6 out of 10. In the volume category, I have to say I'm impressed. This is loud enough near the max to keep up with a drummer and be able to play small gigs. Just don't expect a Mesa Boogie Coliseum and you may be satisfied. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Practicality looks at how you'll fare lugging this thing around from show to show, and I'm not gonna lie, for an amp of its size,
it's on the heavy side, and you'll have to get an effects loop buffer for your true bypass pedals, and it's not super loud. But the big problem is, it's a beautiful amp you won't want to tear up by taking it out on the road constantly, unless you get a flight case, and even then, I don't know about you, I'd worry about its safety and security depending on the venue, and whether or not you have road crew you can trust. I've always had good luck with both of those things, but you might not, so I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Quality looks at how the amp would fare living on the road, and I have no doubt this amp would survive the rigors of touring. It's hardy and robust, even if the exterior would get pretty darn scuffed up. Quality also looks at the fit and finish of the amp and the quality of its components, and the components are indeed rock solid and well made. The only shortcomings are those Marshall-style knobs. Since you do have to interact with them more than anything, it would be really cool to have some knobs that match up to that stellar etched aluminum and stained flame maple, and as much as I love warehouse guitar speakers, the highest level of boutique combo amps have speakers like EVM 12Ls, Celestion Blues, Tone Tubbies, Ted Weber hand-built speakers, and other boutique makes. But it is really darn good, this amplifier, and it gets a 9 out of 10. As for value, this is an incredible amplifier, but only 18 watts and a lack of aforementioned features in the stage score do hurt it. So it gets a 6 out of 10, bringing the stage score to 32 out of 50, which places it here on the stage chart, which isn't a surprise because every amp that beats it out has far more wattage, and the whole Paul score is 76 out of 100, placing it mid-pack, which is incredible for a small low wattage amp. But then the Armored Amp's Little Rascal is an incredible amp. I highly recommend you give Blues Angel Music a call and ask about it, assuming I haven't sold a couple of guitars by that point and bought it myself.